Hello, Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
You know, what I've had a hankering of late to have my face melted off. I don't need it anymore. I could use a new one.
Yeah.
It's a new dermabrasion.
That's right. It's macrodermabrasion.
It's mega dermabrasion.
It's complete dermabrasion. And Uncle Mark, you're gonna tell us how we can do that, right?
You know, there's actually a long honored way to do this.
Okay, sure.
You know, a lot of you see those kids in the mall selling the Israeli sea salt facial thing from the Dead Sea.
Yeah, sure.
This is they'll be selling this next. So
this is phase 2.
you know, fellas, we've talked about a few pieces of holy technology on the show before.
Sure.
We talked about the E-meter, which allows an auditor to discover how many ancient galactic space ghosts are stuck to you for a small fee.
Of which we have one currently in the room with us.
We're looking at it right now.
Yes, thank you, listener Tucker.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the Ouija board, of course, in case you want to contact a departed spirit via Scrabble.
Right.
And of course the Necronomicon, that is just as useful as the first two things.
Right.
But today I want to talk about the OG,
The Mac Daddy.
the big baddie, the biblical mother of all holy technology, and what our millions of Hebrew-speaking listeners know as the Aran Habret.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nailed it.
The Ark of the motherfucking Covenant,
Bam, baby.
which most people don't know is also known as the Ark of Testimony.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I prefer that. Let's go with that.
I don't prefer that.
No,
So
it's terrible.
anyway, we all know that advancements in technology can very often give one army the edge over another.
Sure.
And one army we know from history needed all the help they could get, madly genociding the people God hated, but whom he had also created. So, fuck, it's a rabbit hole. This is not a segment about the moral catastrophe of every page of the Bible, but rather one piece of cool Bible weaponry that kicks ass.
Yeah.
And of course, the army in question was the Israelites. So before Hitler dispatched a team to find the Ark, spoiler, it seems he really did. And that caper was disrupted by a dashing archaeologist / cultural thief, only to get locked up in the mother of all warehouses as the credits rolled.
Yeah.
This little cooler-sized thingy, what was carried around on poles, packed a real punch for the Jews when they needed it. So think of it as an airstrike in a box, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
And before we get to what this Bronze Age C-130 gunship could do, let's talk about what it was and what powered that punch. So, what does it look like? Well, according to the Book of Exodus, the version when the book. Listen, and if anything that's in the Book of Exodus is fact,
Is true.
science fact.
Just ask the Egyptians.
100% true.
Yes, and I can prove it. Oh wait, where'd the proof go? Anyway,
It's in the Bible, doy.
according to the Book of Exodus, the version we're all familiar with from Raiders of the Lost Ark is not really too far off.
Right.
With the caveat that the movie props gold work was probably a tad more sleek than the Israelites were pulling off at the time. So, in a great example of how the Bible goes from absurdly vague on matters that are great to pointlessly specific on random details, the box of the Ark itself was 2.5 cubits long.
I was about to ask how many cubits.
Yeah.
Well, luckily I can answer that question.
Can you translate it to furlongs for me?
Yeah, give me a second. Carry the
How about
hectare
light years?
by 1.5 wide by 1.5 high. Now, why the creator of the universe couldn't round up to the next whole cubit is just one of those abiding mysteries for scholars, I suppose.
It's
but
about the size of one of these Tupperware bins that I've got over here.
it's not. It's about the size of a child's coffin. Just for
great.
Yeah.
That's
You
perfect.
could have just said that.
yeah. So, what is it made of? It's made of acacia wood, and people are like, "Well, the acacia is the tree of life," and it's like, no, dude, that's what wood there was.
It's wood.
There wasn't a lot of wood.
It's made of wood.
It's acacia wood.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of wood in the Sinai.
Yeah,
Right.
Noah used up all the wood for the ark.
Yeah.
So
Took them that long to just grow more trees.
it was acacia wood. It was covered with gold because God is a tacky bitch and loves gold. It had hoops for the long poles to be stuck through so people could carry it without touching it because, as we'll explore, it was a very hot potato.
Yeah.
And it had a heavy lid of solid gold. Now, remember the two angel things on the lid from Raiders, kneeling and kind of spreading their wings towards each other?
Yeah.
First of all, quick aside, is it odd to you guys that a special box made to hold the Ten Commandments is very much in violation of the second one about graven images?
Shh.
Sure.
The answer is
Like, were there literally no copy editors in Judea? So anyway, that aside,
if it look, all of the rules are firmly in place unless God says otherwise.
unless Moses is like, it'd be nice as angels.
You know, it'd be cool.
You know what I'd love to find out is if it turns out the tablets that the Ten Commandments were chiseled on were too big for the box. Because nobody bothered to check. Went to put them in. It's like clunk.
Well,
Clank.
Get them in an angle. If you put them in an angle,
if we can trust the Charlton Heston movie at all, which I sure can be trusted, those things would not fit in that little child's coffin over
Right,
there.
exactly.
No.
In Dan's collection of child coffins he has in the room.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought those angels were a design choice. Those little tree toppers were a design choice for the movie, but that's actually super specified in Exodus. And it's called the mercy seat.
Can I just tell you what I'm getting hung up on right now?
Tell me.
You know the rings that the poles go through?
Yeah.
How strong must those rings have been to carry a wooden box that has 2 stone tablets inside and a solid gold, heavier than lead top?
Yeah. And the rings were specified to be made out of gold, which is not what I would call a weight-bearing material.
Right. No.
Right.
Okay, sorry, just got hung up on the physics of the thing.
I'm sure everything's fine. So this thing on the lid itself with these 2 angels pointing at each other is called the mercy seat.
Okay. I've heard that term before.
I've heard the term before. I mean,
I've heard both of those words before.
It's in a Nick Cave song, and I thought it was like an electric chair or something, right? But apparently it's
Well, I thought it was like where God sat in judgment of people.
well. This actually is where God appeared to Moses on the mercy seat. So if you consider the dimensions,
Wait, who's sitting? Wait.
yes, you're right.
Okay, fuck.
So here's a box that's a yay long by yay wide at the top.
Yeah.
And then you got these 2 angels on it that are smaller than the lid with their wings pointing towards each other
And kind of pointy.
and kind of pointy. So I'm just guessing, I kind of sketched it out, that this little space between the wings was maybe 32 by 18 inches.
It's for a slimmer lad.
It's for a narrow Yahweh.
yeah.
But so I thought the same thing. But God apparently appeared there as a little ball of light or a cloud of vapor, a power he shares with Dracula.
Yeah, sure.
So, same universe? Probably so. So, it's a fancy little gold jewelry box on poles. Because as I mentioned, nobody can touch it. More on that in a jiffy. Why does God need a fancy footlocker with a tiny place to stand on top? What does he need to keep in there, you ask? Well, not a hell of a lot. We've talked many times on the show about the 10 Commandments. What a grand revelation it was for the time in all of human history, the first time in all of human history, that people were told by an on-fire hedge not to kill other people, not to take other people's shit,
Right.
not to even want to take other people's shit, and then a lot of useless petty garbage about what day to go to church and what statues are cool to make. Again, ironically to this story, spoiler alert, no statues are okay to make.
Right.
Those 10 Commandments, yes, those tablets, as we've already discussed, were in the box, along with a pot of manna.
Oh, sure.
Now, the manna, if you guys remember, was the magic food that God gave the Israelites
It's ground bread.
as at least, according to the story, 600,000 of them wandered for 40 years in a small desert with no provisions. So in the ark is just a little light snack
Sure.
at best.
A nibble.
and of course, also, Aaron's rod was in there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Aaron Ra was in there?
Aaron Ra was in there. That would be awesome if you open it up and he just, hello.
Hey, hey, everybody.
That is the most ridiculous thing anyone's ever said. So,
So wait a second. Aaron's rod.
yeah. So let me explain Aaron's rod.
That's the stick that turned into a snake.
What was the stick like?
It's
18
one of-
inches long? Was it a wand?
They broke it.
Point of order, as I'll show, is one of many sticks that turned into a snake. But
Well, that's true.
so Aaron was the younger brother of Moses.
Right.
Kind of a less important to the story. Not a lot of name recognition.
Here comes a Doug joke.
Kind of like Doug. So anyway,
Oh, Doug knows his place. That's cute.
Moses had a fancy staff that God turned into a snake. But then the Pharaoh's guys made all their rods snakes.
Yeah.
So Aaron's rod turned into a snake and
you
ate
wanna see
all
me-
the other snakes.
You guys want to see me turn my rod into a snake?
Cody, cut that out.
Not again.
So later, there was an uprising, and God plagued a bunch of his naughty chosen. And Moses and Aaron got him to stop, but not until all 12 tribes had stuck a stick in the ground.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
So
You gotta stick your sticks.
there's 12 sticks stuck in the ground. Aaron's magically blossoms with leaves and almonds, thus showing obviously that the tribe of Levi was the most righteous and therefore to be the priestly class. Just science, guys.
how does that not show that they're all nuts?
So that's Aaron's rod. So that's it. That's all that there is in the ark.
Right. So Aaron's rod, as Doug points out, is apparently only small enough to fit in this little box, even though it's blossomed with almonds.
Obviously, whoever wrote about the ark had no sense of proportion.
Have you? By the way,
that God-
have you ever tried an almond butter and manna sandwich? Because honestly, that is a treat.
It's a little emergency ark snack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you could fit like a 6-foot rod into a 3.5-foot box, and that the creator of the universe could stand on this weird little balance beam jigger on top.
The guy who designed the staff designed the Stonehenge from Spinal Tap.
Well, I mean, we're assuming it's a nice big walking
Aaron
stick.
had a little pixie stick.
Yeah, maybe it's
Back
a little.
off, Pharaoh.
Not all snakes are big.
True.
He could have turned it into a cute little garter snake or
It
whatever.
could have coiled up like a snake and then turned back into a stick.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ta-da!
There you go.
Problem solved.
We're forgetting how much of this is magic.
If religion would just hire us to fix the Bible, we'd have it done lickety
You
split.
hear that, religion?
We're better than
Wonderbible.com.
all of those rabbis that pour over the things. And
I think it's .ru. So with this golden trunk of random old stuff, the Israelites set off to genocide whomever God told them that he hated.
right.
So the Levite priests carrying the thing would walk about half a mile ahead of the Israelite army. Despite the great expense of the gold and all the craft work of it, it was always concealed under loads of furs and cloth
Like you do.
because nobody could really look at it.
Right.
So I guess it just looked like a bunch of guys coming back from the hunt. Or
Sure.
I
Or
think,
on their way to do laundry.
yeah, I think part of the point was people were supposed to be intimidated by its approach. But if it just looks like some dude's gonna dump a dead donkey in the ravine, I don't fucking know. So, all right, let's get
Yeah,
down
I
to
do
business.
like that. Like, let's craft it out of the finest gold with beautiful ornamentation and cover that shit up though.
Yeah, it just looks like guys carrying a load of laundry.
Oh, yeah. Or he's bragging about how beautiful it is, and everyone's like, can we see it?
No.
No.
What are you,
Why do
crazy?
you want to see it?
Stop it.
So let's get down to business.
Yeah.
What was this trunk of junk full of junk capable of doing? Its first awesome miracle was making the Jordan River dry up.
Yeah.
Not a trick most people who live in the desert are prone to appreciate. But as Joshua was leading his people to the promised land, they had to cross the Jordan River. And so it parted the waters, and they crossed with dry sandals. Now,
A very good trick.
as we discussed in episode 38, the ark made an appearance at the Battle of Jericho.
Yeah.
The Israelites carried it around the walled city one time each day over 7 days. 7 priests blew 7 ram's horns. And by the way, if you've never heard the angelic delicacy of 7 shofars bleeding at once, mwah, beautiful.
I don't even remember this, but I sent you a YouTube link to 12 straight hours of shofar playing. It's out there.
That's my white noise at night. That's how I sleep. So they carried it around, blew the horns, boom, the walls of Jericho come tumbling down, revealing our old friend Rob, the prostitute, among others.
Right.
So what's the next installment of this weird Old Testament Antiques Roadshow? Well, the story takes a rather bad turn for our friends.
Oh no.
Friends? Our heroes. Our heroes? Our murdering plunder army, the Israelites.
Yes.
So they haul the ark out to slay some dirty Philistines at the Battle of Ebenezer, and they lose.
Oh.
So the Philistines captured the ark. And then a Jewish messenger, runs all the way back to wherever and delivers the news and told the old priest Eli that the ark had been captured, causing him to die on the spot.
Causing Eli to die on the spot.
Eli just fell over dead. So Eli's unnamed daughter-in-law instantly gave sadness birth to a child that she somehow had the presence of mind to name Ichabod, meaning the glory has deserted Israel before she herself died of sad,
Oh my God.
leaving behind an orphaned boy with a terrible name because they lost a magic hope chest.
So what you're saying is that weapon that it is, sometimes you take friendly fire.
Sometimes you gotta calibrate properly. And then look, the Bible is nothing if not a catalog of the Mediterranean basin's biggest drama queens. So
Well, and listeners to the show, any fans of Gamcast out there, make sure to never tell Eli Bosnick that the ark has been taken.
Yeah.
but not to worry, little Ichabod. This trophy of war was to be an unlucky one for the Philistines to have seized. They took it to lovely Ashdod, the beautiful town of Ashdod,
Yeah.
where they placed it in the temple of Dagon. Now, Dan,
Yes.
remember when we watched that garbage fire of a movie, Samson,
Yeah.
for the God-awful movies episode we did of the same name?
Yes.
The temple that Bible Hulk destroyed at the end of that movie with the big lizard man statue that fell and killed the priest?
Sure.
That's the Temple of Dagon.
Right. Oh,
Anyway.
Dagon by.
You see how it all, like any great narrative, everything intertwines.
It
know what I mean?
all works together.
So, anyway, when the Philistines parked the ark there, the next morning the giant lizard statue of Dagon was tipped over and lying as if in worship of the ark. No worries. They stood old Dagon back up, spackled their mighty god's ankles, and it was all good.
Sure.
And then the next morning, he had fallen down again.
Oh.
And this time his head had snapped off.
Oh God! Don't lose your head over
All of this is great
Oh
foreshadowing.
my God.
This temple was obviously not meant to stand. So, in addition, because every Bible story you got to gild the lily, the good people of the greater metropolitan Ashdod area were stricken with tumors, and what can only be described as a blizzard of mice overtook their city. and it gets weirder. So after 7 months of this shit, the Philistines sheepishly gave this fucking thing back. And to apologize for stealing the Israelites' superweapon, they fashioned, and this is Bible true, they fashioned charming trinkets of gold as tokens of friendship. What were these trinkets, Dan?
mice.
They were delightful little baubles of tumors and the plague of mice.
Oh my God.
Who said the people in the Old Testament didn't know how to have a little mid-genocidal fun?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
What does a tumor-shaped trinket look well? I know it looks like a tumor.
just
Those were the failed mice.
So-
they were like, "Well, what's this thing? It's a tumor."
So that's not the whole return of the ark story either. So when the Philistines set the ark in the middle of a field to give it back, some nearby men called the something somethings decided to have a peek at the yard sale of Gak inside, and this is probably where our friend Steven Spielberg got the idea for the end of Raiders. And according to one translation, 50,070 of them were killed
Wow,
for looking into the ark.
Wow.
that's a number.
So 50,000. So it's all fun and games, kids, until the entire student body of a good-sized state university is killed for asking what's in the box.
Right.
So after
What's
that,
in the box?
after that, the ark kicked around for a while, crashing on friends' couches, not really being seen in public too much until mighty King David, Christianity's most revered but certainly not only revered rapist, wanted it moved to Jerusalem.
Sure, why not?
When it was in the wagon on its way, it almost tipped over. So the very responsible driver, a guy named Uzzah, reached over to keep it from falling, and the loving God killed him dead for the unforgivable crime of touching it.
Yeah,
Well, duh.
obviously.
So it arrived in Jerusalem.
If the Lord wants his box tipped, you let the box fall.
So this is my favorite part of the story because it is so fucking weird. So it arrived in Jerusalem, and in a very strange twist of the story, King David himself got done up in a provocative, sexy outfit
Nice.
and danced with such sensual abandon in front of the ark and all the good people of Jerusalem that his first wife, Michal, not Bathsheba, the one whose husband he murdered and then raped her as a wedding proposal, rebuked him for overdoing it. And they got into a huge fight, and he said he was going to fuck all the girls that saw him do the sexy dance and never fuck Michal again. And so she never bore a child.
Right.
because he was
magic miking
Although
all over the
he
Ark of the
left it
Covenant.
all out there, man, on the floor.
Although, point of order, I think that we all know that King David's first wife was Jonathan, but I'm just going to
So true. So true.
leave that where it is.
So, yeah. And again, never forget, David is one of the biggest good guys in the Bible.
Right.
So, blah, blah, blah. David puts the ark in a special
I
tent.
love this dancing thing, though.
I want to dwell on that a little bit more.
because
I had to read the paragraph like 3 times. I'm like, wait, what happened?
I really
just thrusting
Look,
at the
I've always wanted to make movie recreations of Bible stories that
Yeah.
are actually true to the Bible.
Right.
Now suddenly this has risen to the top of the list. I want to see him. So
Can we get
see,
Channing Tatum?
I want to see. Yes.
Well, and it
Yes.
also, the fact that this motherfucker can dance ties back to the Jonathan thing. You know,
Yeah.
he's,
Obviously,
he's a fabulous gay murdering rapist king.
he's been to the clubs.
Yeah,
he
he
knows.
knows.
Yeah.
So,
You got to do the beat with the shofar.
David puts the ark in a tent called the tabernacle that's got an inner flap that only the high priest can go in. I know flaps can go into once a year. Others try to worship it and burst into flame.
Let me tell you something. Just as a side note, the number of times that I have seen Christians obsessively recreate the tabernacle tent with
Yeah.
like the exact dimensions and
yeah.
the other things and get super proud about it, it's ridiculous.
You know why? It's
without a sexy dance before that.
Right.
because, like you said, it's so pointless. But in Exodus, it's laid out like measured. It's
Yeah.
this tall. The
It's
rings
one of
are
the
this
things that
big.
they know.
You can actually do it.
You can actually do
Yeah,
it.
there's so many images of this tent, of recreation, literal recreations of this tent.
Yeah.
Online. So, yeah, it's got a fancy flap. But other people tried to worship there and burst into flame because our God is an awesome God. So, time passes, and now Solomon is king. He decides to build a super fancy temple of legend, one equipped with a little room for the ark. It seems like it stayed there for a while. All is well. Then in 587 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon destroys Jerusalem. In addition to this is a very gay story suddenly. In addition to kidnapping Daniel
Suddenly,
and a bunch of unblemished young Jewish boys, that is for some reason never fully explained. Legend has it Nebuchadnezzar takes the ark to Babylon, and then it gets really silly. The Maccabees.
then it gets really silly.
The Maccabees, who I guess are the only Scottish clan named in the Bible, claim that prophet Jeremiah spirited it away before the Babylonian invasion and hid it in a cave in Mount Nebo. The Orthodox Ethiopian Church claims it found its way down the Nile to them,
Right, of course they do.
and they keep it guarded in a modest little church to this day. In 2009, Abun Paulos, the patriarch of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, said he would reveal the ark to the world the following day. Big news, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
And then that following day he appeared and said he would not be unveiling the ark,
He died of sadness.
but rather said it was doing just fine.
considering what happens when the ark is revealed, I think it's a good thing.
Right,
Harrison Ford
exactly.
was riding his horse through towns, going, "Keep your eyes shut, Marion."
And most obviously, the Lembe people of South Africa say they brought it somehow all the way to their ancestral mountains and hid it there. Then, of course, there's the claims that the Knights Templar hid it in Chartres Cathedral, that it was hidden in a small village in southern France, then secretly brought to the U.S. at the outbreak of World War I. Also that it's in England, in Ireland, in Egypt, blah, 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 blah. And it appears that, yes, among many valuable and occult objects Adolf Hitler tried to locate, the Ark was among them. However, no German claims have been made to ever having found it. But
That they tell you about.
exactly. But here's the craziest theory about the fate of the legendary Ark. The Catholic takeaway about the whereabouts of the Ark is, of course, the silliest, as is their custom. Somehow they take Revelations 12:1,
God.
which Uncle Doug inflicted on us just a couple of shows back. The part where the woman stands on the moon and is clothed in the sun,
Sure.
and with a crown of stars, they take it to mean the Virgin Mary, has somehow, by some math, become the Ark of the New Covenant,
oh, shut up.
and that the junk collection that was in the old wooden box is what Jesus is inside Mary.
Shut up.
And that's why she gave birth to a magic walking stick and a tin of flour.
You don't get to take something that was literal and be like, yes, a lot of the Bible you have to take as a parable or as a metaphor,
Yeah.
because it doesn't make any sense any other way. You can't take the one thing that's described as actual physical reality and then say, haha, it was a metaphor the whole time.
Oh yeah, it's look, and
You don't carry a metaphor around a temple 7 times.
in the Bible. It is clearly a box of shit.
Yeah.
A wooden box of shit with 2 tree toppers on it. And so suddenly now it's a woman that's dressed in the sun where a baby shoots out of. So I guess the ark was inside of us all along, fellas. So
You know what just occurred to me too is
Just click your heels together 3 times and say, there's no ark like home.
right. The Liahona is totally Joseph Smith's attempt at putting an ark in the Book of Mormon story,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
It's a little gold thing that helped and hurt.
yeah.
And then he couldn't figure out what to do with it, and it just kind of went away.
Right. That they and we'll talk about the Liahona in depth another time, but it was their compass.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they found it, they got lost for years.
Yeah. It was a
So-
compass, and it was an instant messaging system. That's another story.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the ark, people.
Wow.
Plug it in and don't overcharge,
Yeah.
I guess. And actually, there literally is a Christian apologetic about how this thing could be so deadly. And there's these diagrams online that it was some kind of actual fucking battery
Right. Yeah. well, you
no
put
way.
you put one lead into the manna and then another lead
into the almonds.
Into the almonds.
Yeah.
And you create power.
Boom. So that's the ark.
Suddenly mice start flying around. Anyway, thanks a lot, Mark. Moving on.